So this is the third day of this 7-day retreat here at Southern Dharma in June 2013, entitled Unfettering the Natural Mind, the Path of Clear Seeing. Perhaps you're beginning now by the third day with the teachings and the instructions and the practices we've been undergoing, getting a little glimmer or glimpse of what this means. Unfettering the natural mind, the path of clear seeing. We are not creating. Many people in their meditative practice or spiritual practice, they think they're going about creating something new. They want a new mind. They want a different kind of mind. They want a better mind. They want somebody else's mind. They want anything but their own mind. And so therefore, people do many types of practices. And oftentimes these practices that people then create the same drama they do about everything else in life. They're either good at it or not good at it, successful or failures, right? So people go about doing practices. And after a while they may get some accomplishment or some success at these practices. But unfortunately, they are nowhere closer to unfettering their natural mind than before they began. And this is the truth. But that kind of a journey seems to be, in a preparatory way, what we need to take to kind of clear some things up. Get some things out of the way. And so we get to these pinnacle teachings, as we heard from the Master yesterday. These are the instructions that all Buddhas follow, have followed, and will follow to awaken their mind. And you look for it not in any practice, not in any specific meditation technique. You look to it right here in your own experience. How marvelous. For many of us, we've been running years and years and years. From this teaching to that teaching, from this practice, from that practice, from this teacher to that teacher, from this retreat to that retreat. And all along, it was right here. We never had to leave home. In the practice of samatha, what is often translated as single-pointed concentration, but probably a better translation would be calm abiding or mental quiescence, that also for many people can become a significant blockage, hindrance to awakening. Because one takes a meditative technique, and there are many, many different kinds of it, that in this path is traditionally in the complete Buddhist path that we are receiving in this retreat, the stabilizing of the mind, the calming down of the mind, is just a step a necessary step that one needs to take. In the first day, the Master talked about our true mind as our original face. Our face before our parents were born. Well, if you are looking in the water and you want to see the clear reflection of your face, the water can't be too wavy, can't be too stirred up. Oh, you won't be able to see the clear reflection of your face. The waters have to be settled. So in that sense, there is a degree of settling in, of calming and clarity and stability that is necessary to develop. So one has the capacity of doing the essential work, which only leads to liberation, which is this deep looking directly into the nature of mind and self. And this understanding goes back to the Buddha. Because if you remember the Buddha in his time, before he kind of went on his own, he spent 6 or 7 years studying with all the major teachers, the meditation teachers at his time, most of who taught what are called the Youngness, or stages of meditative trance. And we know that he, according to the story, he mastered them all. And yet he came to the realization, because he was seeking for liberation, not for specific states of trance-induced joy, oceanic peace, bliss, etc. He was not satisfied with those states. He actually saw them as a hindrance, interestingly enough. Because we are not in this practice. The goal of our practice is not a calm mind. The goal in our practice is not a peaceful mind. The goal in our practice, we might say, is not necessarily even a happy mind in and of itself. If we talk about a goal, it is an awakened mind, the mind that knows itself. Right? It is a mind, because usually in a state of, like when we're doing our traditional mindfulness, I am following the breath. I am aware of my breath. I am counting my breath. I am observing my mind. I am the observer. I am the watcher. That is all unfolding in what's called the world of duality. It is the world of separation. Right? There is me doing something in relationship to something called breath. Right? That very statement signifies delusion, ignorance. Because in truth, as we are learning, within this mind, there is no room for subject and object. Right? To see something, to perceive something, to think there's something to be perceived is to think that phenomena is real, solid, permanent. It's a thing. And to believe there's a perceiver is to believe that there is something, again, solid, permanent entity that is seeing this object. And then we even make it worse by thinking there's something going on, whatever the whatever the action is, the seeing, the listening, we think that's something too. But that's not really the way it is. If I asked you, since we all here at Southern Dharma listen, we love to listen to the stream, don't we? We talk this way, the sound of the stream. I love to listen to it. It's so calming. We talk this way, don't we? But next time you go down to the stream, look and listen. And does the sound of the stream and the stream, are they separate? Does the sound of a stream exist separately from the stream itself? And does the stream and the sound of the stream and the hearing of the stream, are they all separate things? Listen deeply, and you will see the way things really are. Unfettering the natural mind, the path of clear seeing. The emphasis in Dharma is on there. It could have been the path of clear hearing, the path of clear tasting, the path of clear. It could be the path of clear understanding. But because in Buddhism we often talk about view, having an enlightened view, having a correct view, seeing things clearly, is probably why the text is called. Or no, the text isn't called. That's what we call the retreat. The text is actually called, what is the text called? The text is actually called, forgive me, The Mirror of Clear Meaning. Nudin Dorji, great Buddha. So before we return to our, somebody else is interested in the four turnings of the mind. Look what you stirred up. I'm tempted to ask Ken what they are. Let him show his ignorance in public. Be good for him.
Just acknowledge it right up.
Yes. These are the big ones. Impermanence. Everything is changing. From the biggest worlds and universes and planets, weather and climate, and to personal relationships, to body, to thoughts, feelings, perceptions. No matter what it is, no matter where you look, everything is in a state of changing. Nothing stays the same. Gain is always followed by loss. Up is always followed by down. Okay. Everything is changing. For us, because we are so identified with our body, as we, when we did our meditation yesterday, looking for the self, the I, we had to look within our body. Because we think we are so identified that I am my body, we not only identify, but we identify everybody else with their bodies. We don't really see them as they are. But because we are so identified with our bodies, it is the impermanence of the body that is most necessary for us to existentially, personally, to meditate. I mean, that everything is changing certainly brings a certain kind of knowledge and wisdom. But to know that each of us is subject to change. And that is, in the human realm, that is defined as our bodies do not stay young forever. They grow old and decrepit. And we get sick, and we get ill, and we get diseased. And of course, the big one for us is we die. Which means that this body that we shower so much attention on and care so much about will one day just be a worthless thing. That, depending on your choice, will either be burnt or buried. Now, why is that? Because it's foul. Right? Think of the person you love. Think of the person you desire. After 3 to 5 days of death, see if you have the same desire for them. That is the fate of every one of us in the room. That is the fate of everybody we love. That is the fate of everybody we hate. People we can't stand. So this is important to meditate deeply on this one, because it points us toward what is essential, what is meaningful. Is there something, and we learned a little bit last night in our meditation, is there something that is not subject to change? But in the world of phenomena, everything is. So that's impermanence. Another big one is the general unsatisfactoriness of existence. That basically, as I say, in the world of relativity, or in the world of, happiness is fleeting, meaning and pleasures are hard to hold on to, they last very shortly, there is much frustration, subject to the poisons of greed, anger, sickness, not greed, anger, fear, lonely, it just goes on and on and on. Look at this life of ours. Right? Here we are. Never in human history has there been such wealth, right, as our society. Such potential, right, to give everybody housing and food and shelter, right? You'd think this would be the, the realm of the gods. And yet there's such misery from top to bottom, right? The rich and powerful only think of themselves, want more for themselves, more power, more money, more greed, right? Don't care about other people, right? Right, if you're not on a legal medication, you're on an illegal medication to get through the day, get through life. Right. The Buddha saw this 2,600 years ago. And why is that? Because people are looking for happiness and peace and well-being in all the wrong places. They don't have a clue. Even though they seek happiness, all they can do is make themselves more miserable. And this is the truth. They live in terror of aging. Right? They live in terror of aging. Endlessly popping supplements and going to the plastic surgeon and they want to live. Can Can I eke out a few more years? Look youthful for a few more years. Right? This is the truth. So please look deeply into the unsatisfactoriness of human existence. I hope I don't sound like some kind of old line preacher or something. But there is a truth. But it's not the truth of hell and damnation. It's really the truth of just looking at life. The Buddha looked at life, 2,600 years ago in his feudal, agricultural little, tiny little bit of northern India and saw this. And then there's the law of cause and effect, karma. That life is not random, that life is not controlled by the gods, that there is this law of cause and effect, causation that is activated and is the prime mover of both individuals, couples, families, societies, historical epics. It's all an unfolding. It all unfolds according to cause and effect. Right? If you want to understand why you are the way you are right now, why your life is the way it is, why you think the way you think, feel the way, etc., it's all because of causes in the past that are now being experienced. Okay? And again, it's not simply, because we live in society, we live with many others, we don't simply feel the effects of our own causes, right? We feel the effects of other people's causes, right? So even though we may recycle, and we may try to keep a small carbon footprint, right? We are still going to suffer the consequences of what is going on in the larger human society and the way they use the earth and the products of the earth, right? So we are not alone. But again, there's no need to despair. There's no need to be angry. Because when you understand the unfolding of karma, you understand why things are unfolding the way they are. And then the fourth is what we talked about earlier, which is the preciousness of this human birth. Right? Because, left to those other three, you might be ready to go have a drink. It's like... Right? Or go shoot yourself or something. I don't know what it does. It does. It's not a pretty picture that those first three turnings. But the fourth is the key one. And that even in the midst of all this impermanence, even in the midst of the unfolding of the past karma, which we will experience, even in the kind of essential meaningless up and down the eight worldly winds of life, and there is something precious. There is something of great value, and we have had the opportunity to encounter it. We have had the opportunity to understand it. We have the opportunity to practice it. We have the leisure. Look at us. You can just take off a week. Right? I mean, it's incredible. We can just take off a week and come here to Southern Dharma. There are other people willing to cook for us, right? Maintain the place. And all we can do is show up. I mean, that's incredible. Good fortune. So to have, again, because as we say, we can take, the Dharma is still available, the teachers are still teaching, the instructions are still, that could all be there, but we might not have the opportunity to take advantage of it. Many people don't. Right? They don't have the opportunity, even if they wanted to. They can't take off for a week. Maybe they can't get off from work, or they have other types of responsibilities, or right, to family, to whatever, and they don't have the opportunity just to take off 7, 8, 9 days and go on retreat. So this is a great good fortune we have. So again, it is that to really understand the unique juncture of opportunities and possibilities in our life, then shows us there is another way. And of course, those are the those are the four turnings that turn the mind toward Dharma. But of course, the fifth one, which is not of the four, but is in and of itself, of course, is bodhicitta, the awakening of the compassionate heart that clearly is in touch with, not afraid of, not cut off from, but deeply involved, deeply willing to touch and participate in the suffering of life, the suffering that we just talked about, but in an enlightened way, in an awakened way, in a way that really offers the opportunity to really help people get out of the net. Right? That's why the fish goes back in. See, if the fish just goes back in to be with the other fish in the net, well, we could say, well, that's some kind of, I don't know, what is that? Is that altruism? I don't know what that is. Like, they're all in there, I might as well go in there and burn with them. I mean, that's some kind of action. I'm not sure what we'd call that. But that's not what this is. Okay? This is not just empathy. This is the capacity to lead people out of their suffering. It's not just to suffer with them. Especially when so much of their suffering is self-created. So this is not just about going back in the net and getting caught and eaten with all the others. Right? This is about showing them the way out. There is a hole over here. Come, follow me. We don't have to be eaten for dinner. So that is the mind turnings. This is a big question. It's a good question. Let me hold off for a day or two because I want to get back in text, but it's a good question, whoever sent it in. So, returning to our text. As you remember, after the first 10 or so stanzas, introductory, setting the stage, yesterday we read, all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future travel the path of these teachings, and now you are fortunate to have met this secret path. The heart essence of all the Buddhas is just this and nothing else, the certain secret essence of Ati Dzogchen. If you gain an irreversible realization of this teaching, then you gain the understanding of a Buddha. Hard to really understand, it is like the wish-fulfilling jewel. You must practice the wisdoms of listening, reflecting, and meditation diligently and without sloppiness. Please remember that in your practice. Be diligent. Don't be sloppy. I think everybody can take that meaning personally. You decide what that means for you. How you practice in a sloppy manner and are not careful. Notice what you are spilling all day. Your mind, your own mind, is the root of all phenomena. Okay? So, we're talking now personally, whatever that means. But we're talking about, for each of us, our own mind is the root. The root is what? The plant comes from what? The root. Right? The root is in the earth. And from the root comes the plant. Right? The plant has no existence without the root. Would you grant me that? All right. So, this mind, your own mind, is the root of all phenomena. Phenomena is everything you what? See, hear, smell, taste, touch, feel, think, cognate, perceive. Right? Emotion, memory. Right? All the phenomena that you see. Its root is in no other place than your own mind. That is why, again, meditation is about understanding the true nature of this mind. It is said in the Dzog-chen tradition, do not, I can't remember the exact quote, it's sort of like, do not waste your time pruning the leaves, cutting back the branches. That's what most people do. Clip, 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 clip. Right? Working on themselves. Anybody here guilty of working on yourself? Working on your issues. Working after this issue, after that issue. The inner child, the outer child, my issues from when I was young, when I was a teenager, my hang-ups around this, my hang-ups around that, right? Right? Those are called the leaves. Right? And if anybody knows about pruning back branches and leaves, what happens after a couple of years? They grow back. They grow back. And for those you who have been working on your issues, working to resolve those issues for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, yeah? I guess normally you get the prize, 70 plus years. We can't seem to get to the end of it, right? Right? There's always more issues. Now, that's good for the mental health profession, keeps it in business. But there is another way. So in this tradition, it is said, do not waste your time cutting the leaves, pruning back the branches. If you want to take the tree down, go to the root. One swift cut. No more tree. A little bloodthirsty. Is that clear? That is why it is said in this tradition that you know this one thing and you know everything. Why? Because the root of all phenomena is where? In your mind. Is the root of it. So you understand your mind, you understand all phenomena. You understand the nature of your mind, you understand the nature of all phenomena. Immediately. That's why this is a path for lazy people. Right? Who don't want to work so hard. Right? Having to get out there and know all the phenomena of life just tires me out thinking of it. How much easier just to know the one thing. Your own mind is the root of all phenomena. When you first start to practice the word mind, it sounds very big. And you know that we spent a lot of time yesterday and will continue to do so. Kind of really breaking down this word mind into actual experience. Where does the mind come from? Where does it rest? Where does it go? We began that yesterday. What shape is it? What color does it have? By inquiring into the root of your mind, you must again and again, again and again, again and again, again and again, again and again. It's constant. We have to cut out our ignorance, our misperception. So one time is not enough. That will only leave a residue of intellectual understanding. Again and again, come to a definite understanding of its real nature. So again, if you were probably in retreat and just meditating, the kind of questioning that he introduces in this paragraph, really looking into the mind, the nature of mind, where does it come from, where does it rest, where does it go, its shape, its color, the kind of things, again, we did yesterday in relationship to mind and the self, would be an ongoing process leading to realization. But again, you'd have the whole text, and I'm going to explain the whole text, or as far as we get in this retreat. But please understand, this is not a one-time thing. These are instructions for a lifetime. So he goes on. What is called mind cannot be identified as this or that. It is not an entity, and it has no defining characteristics. Let me read through the verse and then we'll comment on it. If you search for it, it cannot be found, for it has been empty from the very beginning, without substantial essence. Empty. It is beyond expression, untouched by birth, death, coming and going. It is not created by any cause, nor destroyed by any condition. It remains untouched in emptiness, free of increase and decrease, development and decline, or any kind of change. Now again, in our meditation last night, we sort of touched on this, didn't we? As we were looking into our mind, if we were looking into our sense of isness, beingness, without the mediation of thought, just as an experience, many people were reporting it doesn't seem to have a beginning or an end. It cannot be defined by any characteristics. It doesn't seem to have any boundaries or shape or sides. And yet it is here. Something is here. And yet its presence is in no way created by me. It has absolutely nothing to do with me. Right? So already last night, people were getting a sense of this mind. Whose mind? Your mind. Your mind. Your mind. It cannot be identified. Because if you say it's this, then it can't be that. If you say it's like this, then it would imply that it's not like that. So we don't say that it can be identified in any way. Language in no way can tell you what it is. It has no characteristics. It's not a thing. That's why when you say, oh, I have a thing called a mind, my response is, show me. If you have a mind, then it must be a thing. Right? Mind is just a word. And remember, in the Zen tradition, words are fingers pointing at the moon. Right? If somebody's trying to point the moon out to you, don't look at their finger. That's not that's not interesting. Look at the moon. Don't look at the finger. Words are just words. Combination of letters and sounds. They are representations. They are simply mental representations. They're what we turn experience into. We turn them into words. But because we are ignorant, we have forgotten about experience and we live in the world of words, of representations. It's like someone spending their whole life in front of the TV and thinking that's their life. There are people like that. I remember when I used to go to work, people would be sitting around talking about, I didn't have a TV, so I know what they were talking about. They talk about what happened to this one and what happened to that one, what's going on in this one's life. And I realized they were talking about TV programs. I was dumbfounded. Because, they were so involved in the drama of these people's lives, I can't believe what happened to so-and-so, or I can't believe what so-and-so did, or you know what I mean? And they'd have real emotion behind it. And the whole thing's just made up. Huh? But that's what we're like. We live in the world of mental representations. We're always watching TV in our own minds. It's not real. This is real. Only this is real. And that hitting is gone already. It's not real anymore. If it's in your consciousness, it's only in your consciousness as a memory, you've already turned it into a representation. Is that clear? A visual image. That's not real. That's just mind created. Whose mind? Your mind. And you may go, well, what's the big deal, right? The big deal is too many of those mental representations cause you suffering. You believe your thoughts are real. Right? And when your thoughts tell you that things are not going well, how do you feel? Bad. When your thoughts are telling you, ooh, things may turn out the way you might not turn out the way you want. This may happen or that may happen. How do you get? Anxious, worried. Right? I could go, you know what I'm saying? It's all just mind created. They're all just thoughts. So, do not think that because a lot of your thoughts are benign, they're just fantasies, they're just daydreams, they're just rumination. You're addicted to TV. And there's a price to be paid. Cut it at the root. See into the nature of all thought. See into the nature of thought. And you'll be liberated from every thought, because you'll know their nature. If you search for it, it cannot be found, right? We spent a couple hours last night and earlier in the day searching for the self, the I, me, mine, searching. And other than Carol, nobody could come up with anything. And then Carol kind of backed off to it. It has no essence. Empty, beyond expression, untouched by birth, death, coming and going. It is not created by any cause, nor destroyed by any condition. You can be aware of everything. But that awareness does not change if you're aware of, you can be aware of birth, you can be aware of death, right? But that awareness is not being born, and that awareness is not dying. Awareness does not change. Right? You can be aware of sunny days, you can be aware of rainy days. Right? But awareness doesn't reign. Awareness is just aware. It is not touched by coming and going. It is not touched by any conditions. It does not get bigger, it does not get smaller, it doesn't increase, it doesn't decrease. It is not subject to change. Now you remember the 4 wheel turnings? Or the 4 mind turnings? Change. Construction, destruction. Birth, sickness, old age, death. And here we're learning about the essential mind. And we're seeing what? Nothing changes. Not subject to causes and condition. No. Which one do you want to buy? 2 products. Which one would you rather buy? That's the choice of practice. Free of the 4 limiting notions of existence. Now we're going next. Free of the 4 limiting notions of existence, non-existence. Both existence and non-existence, neither existence nor non-existence in all relative positions. This is what Buddhist philosophers and dialecticians spend a lot of time on. Okay? These are the 4 these are the 4 ways of looking at the phenomena. Do they exist? Do they non-exist? Do they both exist and non-exist at the same time? Or do they not? Or do they neither exist nor not non-exist? Anyhow, for those who are interested in those things, they're interesting. But and all other, but he's all right. So he's saying it's free of all that. Mind is empty, uncompounded. It's not, everything else is made up of things, right? Like we're made up of things, right? We're made up of things. All kinds of parts. Everything in here is made up of parts. This meditation hall is made up of parts, right? We call it a meditation hall, but that is just a word, a label, a mentally constructed attribution. We call this a meditation hall. This is not a meditation hall, right? If you think there's something here called a meditation hall, you're deluded, right? Yeah, I mean, just get some gasoline. Right? Get some gasoline. Get a match. Right? What's going to happen to this meditation hall? It's going to disappear. Or else, if we're not up for that, what if we just took it apart? Took all the boards out and laid them all out. Right? Where's your meditation hall? Gone. It's gone because it never existed, because it always was just a compounding of parts that temporarily came together in a certain shape and form and function, and we call it, therefore, a what? A meditation hall. We make it up. What do the ants call it? Food. There you go. What do the Bora bees call it?
Nest.
Nest. I mean, it's... Now, please listen. Free of artifice from the very beginning, awareness remains unimpeded. How wonderful. Free of artifice. There is nothing artificial about it. There's nothing manipulative about it. There's nothing, it's not constructed or created in any way to make any kind of impression. It doesn't exist in that artificial mode in any way. From the very beginning. Right? So this awareness, it didn't have to work its way out. How do I get from the artificial to the real? It was free of artifice, your true mind, your awareness. And again, what is your awareness? It is what is listening to me right now. There's no artifice in your listening, in your hearing. You're just hearing. Right? Purely. Unadulterated. Now, if you start thinking about it, you start spinning your stories about what's being said, you have left this wonderful Buddha mind of yours, and you have entered the world of conceptualization. Whose conceptualization? Yours. And you know what that's worth. For those of you who've been following your concepts around for the last, some people, almost 70, 80 years. You know how liberated that has gotten you. Free of artifice from the very beginning. Awareness remains unimpeded. Please listen. Awareness is unimpeded. Unimpeded means what? No boundaries, right? Effortlessly, right? It listens, it looks, it smells, it tastes, it thinks, it knows, it just, right? It's unimpeded. It's continuous, right? You don't do anything, right? Here's an experiment, okay? In the middle of the night, set your alarm and wake up and see if you can kind of get there before awareness does. That's a challenge, see if you can kind of sneak up on it. I'm just going to kind of, see if I can catch unawareness. So I can prove that it's not continuous. Would you try that tonight? No, you're not. Why do you laugh? Why do you laugh? Because awareness, what? Just is. It's always here. Do you have to do it? Do you have to turn it on? Right? Do you have to get up and, when you turn on the light, turn on your awareness switch? Oh, it's always there. It's even there when you're sleeping. Somebody said to me, well, how about when you're sleeping? Well, if somebody pushed you or something, there was a sound, you'd wake up. So even when you're sleeping, awareness is present. You don't have to do it, anything. And that's how you'll know when you're dead. Right? That's how you'll know it. Free of artifice from the very beginning, awareness remains unimpeded. Now listen to this very carefully. When this is experienced, youthful, fresh awareness is released from its covering pot, and you see your own face the natural mode of infinite goodness, Samantabhadra, the blue Buddha, the all-good Buddha. So when you experience, and if there are people in this room, I think there was some reference to it yesterday, who do not like getting old, who do not like what they see in the mirror, when this is experienced, youthful, this mind is youthful. Youthful means what? It's full of life. It's fresh. Remember being young? It's fresh. It's alive. It's youthful. Right? This mind, this awareness. So for those of you who want to stay young forever, awaken to your true mind. You will always be youthful. Your awareness is always fresh, always new. Every moment is fresh and new. When you live in that, then you are, in a certain way, always like a child. You always have the wonder of a child. You always have the immediacy of experience of a child, no matter what's going on in your body. But if you identify with your body and you identify with your endless thoughts about your body and life and other people's body, you will not feel youthful. There are many people, who the tragedy of aging is not that bodies get old, is that people's minds, right, covered over more and more with thoughts, perceptions, beliefs. Right? I mean, talking to old people, a lot of old people, is miserable. Right? Because they're miserable. Right? They're in misery. They're in misery because they're old and all and they're dead. They're dead. They're not alive. They're unhappy. They're unhappy with their situation. They're unhappy with their aging. They only think about the past. They think about the people who've died or what. It goes on and on and on. Right? They're not enjoyable to be around because they are not in touch. If they were only in touch with their true mind, they would be still youthful, even in an old body. Those of you who know my mother, some of you know my mother. She's part of our community in Florida, and she's a practitioner. And she's 96 years old. And those who know her know she has a fresh mind. She's happy. Talk to her, she's alive. She's present. She's still very much alive, right? Her mind is youthful. And that's a rarity among old people, right? These days, we know that. It's sad. When this is experienced, youthful, fresh awareness. Fresh. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about that a lot, quite wonderfully, right? Your meditation should be fresh. Right? Fresh means what? First time. First time. That's why I said to the people who've never been on retreat, good for you. Because you have a fresh mind. You'll hear the teachings and you'll just take them in. You'll have the experience and it'll all be new for you. The danger with people who are experienced meditators, it's already, there are layers of conceptualization, how to do it. They have past experience to compare to. They got all these teachings running around in their heads. Which one do you apply now? It's like, ooh. Fresh awareness. is released from its covering pot. Right? What is this covering pot that covers our fresh awareness? Right. It is our covering pot of delusion. What is this delusion made up of? Thoughts. Thoughts upon thoughts about thoughts. Thoughts that are woven into beliefs. Thoughts that are woven into formations about ourselves and the world and who I am and who I'm not and what my issues are and what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing and who I am and who I'm not and what other people think. Right? Thicker and thicker and thicker. It's covering what? This fresh awareness, youthful, alive. Again, luckily, it just appears as a pot. It feels like a pot, but it isn't a pot. In your meditation, you will see that in truth, even though even though there seems to be a swarm of bees buzzing about, there is space between each of the bees. Even though the waterfall appears to be a solid sheet of water, they're actually individual droplets with space. So this covering of conceptualization, perceptions and beliefs and ideas, it only appears solid, but it is not. As the teaching says, thoughts are like flowers in air. No substance. Because the covering pot, it too is empty of any substance. It truly does not exist either. That is why liberation is available to all of us immediately. Release from its covering pot, and you see your own face, the natural mode of infinite goodness. Next verse. If this is not realized, awareness loses continuity and becomes stupid. As I said, this is what I enjoy about the old-timers. Go right for it. If we do not realize the way things really are, who and what we really are, the true nature of our mind and phenomena, this awareness, right, that I said is just endlessly flowing, always present, will lose its natural continuity because we will start what? Grasping after thoughts, grasping after phenomena, running this way, chasing that way, right? Endlessly, right? And therefore, the continuity of awareness is broken because we have lost our awareness of it, our connection to it. We are lost in story. We are lost in worry. We are lost in grasping. We are lost in seeking. We could be lost endlessly. And we have been lost endlessly. And therefore we have become stupid. Stupid means what?
Not smart.
Not smart. What aren't we smart about? The way things really are. We're stupid. We chase after things that have no meaning. We chase after things that have no inherent reality. We chase after our own mental creations as if they're real. Now that's stupid. Right? As Robbie said yesterday, right? She walks by somebody, they don't look at her, and Robbie says what to herself? Why didn't they look at me? Maybe they don't like me. Right? Maybe there's something wrong, you know what I mean? But the truth is, Robbie has no idea what just happened. Right? She has no idea whether they saw her or didn't see her or what was going on or anything. And even worse than that, Robbie, doesn't another human being have a right to walk by you without saying hello? Of course. But Robbie, in that moment, left reality and entered the reality of her own thoughts, her own conditioning, and therefore she was stupid, forgive me. She was stupid because she was not able to perceive clearly what was actually going on. She lost her inherent intelligence. We have a natural intelligence when we see clearly. We don't have to read about it. We don't have to read self-improvement books. It's here because we see clearly what's going on. As was said earlier, this mind of ours has two major characteristics. It is empty and it is all-knowing. It has its own natural capacity to cognize, to know. But if it's not realized, it loses its continuity and becomes stupid. This is called co-emergent ignorance. So this in Buddhism, it means it just emerges from that first leaving of awareness and entering the world of conceptualization and conditioning and the grasping after the phenomena, right? The whole thing emerges. All your stuff emerges. You know those issues you've been working through? It'll all start emerging, right? Once you make that first misperception, that first stupid thing, right? When you begin to see yourself separate from the other and interpret the situation, you lose, you separate, and then before you know it, all the ignorance emerges, right? And it could go on for days. It's co-emergent ignorance. Not good. My friends, not good, this co-emergent ignorance. Appearances and emptiness are falsely split and are experienced as separate things. Bound by the fetter of grasping subject and graspable object, the ignorance of reified identification develops. So he's sort of saying here what I was just saying. So, because in our experience we see things as solid and real and permanent, because we don't see there's really nothing there of any inherent meaning. We don't see the true aspect of phenomena. We forget the true aspect of who and what we are. There's a reified self, grasping at an object, creating a story around it, labeling, etc., etc. And before you know it, we have entered the world of separation. Right? That's now me versus them. Right? Perceiver and perceived. And then he says, bound by the fetter of grasping subject. Right? We can't just walk by. The mind grasps at the experience and makes something of it. Right? Take eating. What's going on? Right? That's eating. Am I right? Yeah. And involved in eating is what? Tasting. Smelling. Seeing. Am I missing something? Chewing. Thank you. Remember to chew your food. Well, you obviously were taught that. Chewing. Right? That's eating. And you have the capacity of being totally aware and present without doing anything to that whole experience of eating. But the grasping subject, and the graspable object, the subject what? Me, the I, with all its issues around food, takes this very simple experience and starts going, what? This is good. I don't like this. It's not good. Gee, he cooked better yesterday. Or he's, whatever happened to what was her name? Whatever happened to Donna? I mean, she never, right? Can you see, the self has grasped at the phenomena of eating and is now fettered. Fettered means what? When you're tethered, when you're fettered, you're chained to something. Right? You see? That's what happened to you yesterday, Robbie. You grasped at that experience, you turned it into something, right? And then you were fettered by it. In the same way the experience you had with Fred, can you see? Then you got fettered by it. And we think that's normal. You think we think going around fettered to our conceptions, to our stories, to our stuff is normal. And the purpose of life is to work our way out of it. Right? No. The purpose in life is not to get in it. And you have that choice moment to moment, right? You have that choice moment to moment. You are not fettered by your past. Many people here think they're fettered by their past. Right? You are not fettered. You are fettered by your past because you believe you are. Past, as you know from your first day of Buddhism. Right? We've all learned this. What do we know about the past? It's gone. Everybody, we all say that. We could teach our parrots to say it. And they would have as much understanding as we do. Past is gone. What does that mean, my friends? Past is gone. It doesn't exist in any real way. It only exists as what? What? As a memory, as thoughts, as stories, that's all. And how real are those? Look right at them and they disappear. How could you be fettered by, right? Right, if somebody walked into your psychiatric facility, right? Their hands like this, and right, and they do, well, hold on. Exactly. And their hands like this, and you say, you want to put down your hands? They say, I can't. They're tied together by this rope, right? And you look at them, and you look at their hands, and you see, but you don't see a rope, and yet they're fettered. They can't undo their hands, can they? Why? Why can't they undo their hands? Because they believe they're fettered. And their belief trumps reality. And we do that all day. Is that clear? We think we are fettered by things that don't exist. the experience over and over again for many years, sitting as Dharma teacher, when people come to me and they start telling me about this deep-seated issue that they have. And I'm always very curious, and I say to them, that controls them and all that, and I say to them very simply and naively, oh, that sounds like a very big issue. Can you show it to me? I'd like to see it right now, anything that big and significant and deep-seated. And then they kind of get the funny look on their face. And I say, no, I'm serious. I'd like to, anything as deep-seated as that and as significant as that, I'd really like to take a look at. Please just go into your mind, please find it and show it to me. What do you think happens? They get a sheepish look on their face. Because when they look for it, they can't find it. And then I really am puzzled. Because one minute that we're going to talk about this significant, deep-seated issue that controls their life, but when they look for it, they can't find it. It's disappeared. I can't help but go wondering, how could anything as significant and deep-seated as controlling that not be there? Please reflect on this deeply. Bound by the fetter of grasping subject and graspable object, the ignorance of reified identification develops. Reified means what? We take the unreal and we make it real. But even when you take the unreal and you make it real, it's not real. But you think it is, because you've reified it. You've turned it into something solid, you think, such as an issue, such as a past, such as a future, such as even a present moment. There's no such thing as a present moment. Don't reify the present moment. There's just this. And as you've learned today, this, nothing can be said about it. As soon as you say something about it, as it's said in Zen, you've muddied the waters. Why muddy the waters? So we will stop here. In the guided meditation, Angie, would you help people look at their thoughts, such as what is a thought? I'm not talking about conceptually. What is a thought? Where do they come from? When they rest, where do they rest and stay? And where do they go when they leave us? Okay? And let me just say it is just a little after 12:10, so you have 20 minutes before lunchtime again to do some walking meditations. Quite beautiful outside before lunch.